the story of the mighty Mazda rebuild. I purchased this car from a friend for $500. It had some problems like this broken headlight and broken door handle on the sliding door. Perhaps biggest of all is it had some bad engine knock.
This is rod number 3. It's got a lot of clang in it.
As you can see, rods aren't supposed to move on the crankshaft like that. They're supposed to look like this, with no play at all. And you can also tell that they're burnt out because the crankshaft is black and the rods are black, or they should be a nice metallic color, as you can see in this clip. The main reason for purchasing this car is because my wife and I were expecting our second child, and we had been driving a 2002 Mazda Protege, which is a rather small car. So I set to work on rebuilding this engine. I was hoping to reuse the crankshaft, but as you can see, it's rather burnt out black and heavily scored, which would cost at least $300 to get it reground. So I decided to buy a new crankshaft, which ended up costing $300 shipped. I also ended up replacing the rods in this car because they weren't salvageable. I was fortunate enough to be able to pull this engine out of my car. Actually, I dropped it out of the bottom of the car, lifted the car up on jack stands, lowered the engine out, and put it on an engine stand I picked up for $20 from an old mechanic. Engine stand was necessary because I would have to take the head off to replace the rods and practically rebuild the entire engine. Checking the clearances, and they were way out even with simply using a cheap caliper. Got it all cleaned up, ready for the new bearings. I am not a mechanic by trade. I'm an operations manager. However, my father was a mechanic, which gave me the confidence to do it. But in the end, rebuilding an engine is not that complicated, as there is YouTube and plenty of resources online to find what you need on how to change an engine, and you don't even need that many specialized tools. If you can find and learn the basic principles of engine rebuilding and just car mechanics, and if you can stick to them, it's actually quite simple. Got the rods put on the new pistons, or the new rods put on the old pistons. All said and done, I spent $1,862 on this car, including the purchase costs and all the parts that went into it. I started rebuilding this in July, and I finished it in November. It's about 5 months, and since then I've put on almost 10,000 miles, and it's running strong. It's a great car for my wife and our 2 kids. And that's the story of the mighty Mazda.